Hello, people of Connecticut. I am Selina and this is Connecticut Common Sense. And I spent my weekend at the Connecticut GOP convention, and I thought I'd give you guys an update. So on Friday, my town, Ansonia, voted for the congressional representation, and so that was very interesting. I've never been to a convention before, so this was completely new for me. I wasn't the only one there who was completely new to the process, but we had 5 people going for our town, which is our permitted delegate number. And right behind us was our sister city, Derby, and they also had 5 people. So they had us divided up by district, by congressional district. And so for the first district, Amy Chai was the nominee and uncontested delegate. So the way the process works is you have a nomination and that person gets to make a little speech, and then they have a second and that person gets to make a little speech. And because Amy was uncontested, she was voted right in, as was George Austin for the second. Now for the third, we had Chris Lancia, and he had a Mr. Azari who was challenging him. And Mr. Azari was really a great guy. I heard him speak at the Derby RTC meeting, the week before the convention. It was just a few days. And we weren't sure that he was going to have his paperwork in time. It turns out he did, and he had he had someone to nominate him. And so then we all had to do the voting thing. And Chris Lancia got the endorsement, which means that he had more than 50% of the vote. But if you get more than 15%, then we get to have a primary. So Mr. Azari did get that 15%. Now, just to cut right to the chase, on Saturday, he decided to withdraw that challenge. So right now, the first, second, and third districts have people running for Congress who are not going to be getting primaried. The fourth and the fifth are a different story. So, in the fourth, Michael Goldstein got the endorsement, but Daniel Moresi got, I think it was at least 20% of the vote. It's between 20 and 25% of the vote. So I believe he is planning to work I believe there's going to be a primary challenge there. I don't see Daniel withdrawing. He's been on the podcast. We've interviewed him, as has Mr. Goldstein. And I think that they're both great candidates, and maybe we'll be able to create another debate for you guys. And that, of course, will be televised. Now, the fifth is the one where things got really interesting. If you've been following any politics in Connecticut, then you know that that is a highly contested race. We've had Jonathan DeBarros on the show multiple times now, and I believe him to be not only a strong candidate because he has been out there working his tail off campaigning, but he is able to go into the cities, which is something that Republican candidates have historically not done. Now, he even invited Rob Sampson to come out and campaign in the cities. He wanted to help him, and Rob Sampson didn't seem to be very interested in that, which I don't know what to make of that, honestly. So we have some interesting politics going on, especially in the 5th district. The 5th is the most flippable district in all of New England. And to flip from blue to red, that would be big for our entire region. So the fact that Jonathan has been on this since last year makes me wonder why suddenly there is a candidate running against him who has not been going into the cities, but is suddenly greatly funded. I find that extremely suspect. Shea came out of nowhere, and, one of the issues that we've had in the Republican Party in Connecticut is that candidates have been crowned. I use that term very specifically. Chosen. And this has not served us well. And it looks to me like this Shea fella, who I can't remember his first name, I apologize, I think it's Chris. And when a candidate is chosen, that disengages people from the process. And that means that they're not really invested in the process. It's very easy to think, oh, the party is just taking care of that. And the problem is that our party has not been taking care of this. Whether or not they're just choosing badly because they think they know better than what the average person is actually going to show up and vote for, or it's deliberate. I don't know. And we don't have specific proof of that, but speculation is rife. And I think it should be. We should all be thinking about why we have been losing as a party. This is a really important question because the upshot is that we have no representation on a federal level. No one in New England has representation on a federal level. And in Connecticut, we have a Democrat supermajority that we've had since 2017. And we need to think about why this has happened. Is it incompetence or is it deliberate? Or is it actually both? I usually go with both because incompetence is completely easy. It's less likely that there's a percentage, I'm sure, is deliberate because we've seen on a national level how deliberate some of this fraud has become. Why would Connecticut be any different? There's fraud everywhere. Are we special? No, we are not. I just don't believe that either. So anyway, so the 5th district was contested. They ran a second because once you run a vote, then there's usually a second round of voting. There were also problems with having delegates who had registered late and making them ineligible to vote. And so they had to be called out. We had the same problem in the 3rd. I don't think that was deliberate. That was people being confused about what was acceptable behavior. There's a lot of people who come to this conference, and on Friday there were some 900 people there, and if any of them came late and were unclear on the rules, and that's absolutely a possibility. With 900 people, you're trying to corral a lot of human beings with a lot of different specific rules, so there's going to be mistakes made. So we just try and fix those. On the other hand, there were a lot of people who switched votes, who had said that they would vote for Jonathan, and then they switched their votes on the second round. So that became problematic, and it was highly contested. That being said, although Shea got the endorsement, Jonathan got 22% of the vote, and there is going to be a primary. And I hope that Mr. Shea will be happy to come and have a debate, because I know Jonathan will, and I know he's completely prepared for that. The will of the people actually matters. We can't just have a crowning of a delegate. And that has not served us well. When was the last time the GOP won? Yes, there is cheating. Of course there's cheating. And we know about that too. And hopefully that will also get cleared up. Our party is supposed to be representing the interests of ordinary Republicans. And for the last 10 years, that has certainly not been the case, and probably for longer than that. Some of that's our fault. We sat here and waited. Do I want to prevaricate here? Because technically, I've been a libertarian before I was a Republican, and I did that for 10 years. I didn't understand the process. Now I do. So now I'm in. I hope you will be too. So let's get on to what happened with the gubernatorial, which was yesterday. And so while Betsy McCoy campaigned really hard, and I personally, as a delegate, voted for her, she did not get a high enough percentage of the votes that she felt it was appropriate to continue, and she graciously withdrew. So Ryan Fazio is our endorsed gubernatorial candidate by a pretty high majority, and our endorsed lieutenant gubernatorial candidate is Matt Corey. Mr. Atkins had enough that he could have primaried, but he withdrew from the race in an extremely gracious speech. And the message that was largely coming from all of the candidates who were running was the idea that we should mostly be unified in how we approach this. The energy was a lot of fun. There was a lot of humor during the votes, because during the gubernatorial vote, you have to go up as a district, and they line you up by alphabet, and then you say how the captain for your town says how many votes your town has for each candidate. And there was a good deal of humor. There were quite a few. You got to say just a tiny something about your town. For example, in the round of voting for lieutenant governor, East Lyme made a comment about how they were the heart of tick-borne diseases. Since I have chronic Lyme, I thought that was hilarious, and a lot of people did too. But there was a lot of that kind of humor, very self-depreciating. The obligatory pizza jokes. There was it was really quite fun. It was fun. And the fellow who was running who was repeating back the votes usually threw in a little comment as well. So the whole thing sometimes got a little spicy. But it was overall very entertaining, very congenial. It was an experience that I would be happy to repeat. And I'm sure that all of the conventions wouldn't be quite this fun. I would say it was an exercise in unity. There were a couple of incidents where the chairman of the GOP, Ben Proto, got a little upset. One in which he was shouting at John Flynn, who has also been on the show, so we know who he is. So there was some shouting, and this happened right in front of my face. I didn't plan to see it, but there it was. There was also an incident that this is floating around. I did not see this, but my co-host, Jason, came up to Ben Proto, and Ben basically reached out and knocked the camera out of his hand because he was annoyed at being interrupted, and felt that his private conversation was being interfered with, which, since it's a public venue, there's really no expectation of privacy. So, all of that was very interesting. And one of the quotes that Ben Proto did, and this was in my presence, so I will attest to this, is that he said that we should just see this as a big game and not get too stressed about it. And at the time, he was specifically addressing Jonathan DeBarros. And after he departed, I said, this isn't a game to me. And the agreement was, this is not a game to us. So our message as the base, as the Republican base, is that this is not a game. This is our lives. It's our livelihoods. It's the way we want to exist in the state of Connecticut. And we need to not treat it as a game. Yes, it can be fun. I had fun yesterday. I had a lot of fun yesterday, actually. It was so much fun to hang out with my friends, my new friends in the Ansonia R2C, to hang out with my former mayor, to sit and eat pizza at Pepe's and have a lovely salad and get hugs from people who were glad to see me. It was awesome. I really enjoyed that. There is a sincere affection when you find someone who is sharing a goal with you. And that's what we're doing here. We have a shared goal. We want to make Connecticut great again. We want to bring back those things to the state that made Connecticut a wonderful place to live, a wonderful place to raise a family. We have a beautiful state here. We've really got it's some of the most amazing landscape in New England. We've got, as my husband often says, a little bit of everything. We've got mountains, we've got waterfalls, we've got rivers, we have some shoreline, we have forests. It's just lovely. And we have some amazing landmarks and some really incredible history. This should not be commandeered by people who just want to be in control or who just want to suck the life out of the rest of us normal human beings. And on that note, that is my summation of the convention. I hope that anyone watching will come out and participate in the many, many things that can be done to make our state great again. This is Selina Rifkin signing off. God bless Connecticut and God bless America. Love you guys. Bye.